everybody. Welcome. And to all the review players, those who are replay, there's our word, replay. Welcome. We are so glad you are here with us, and we're going to be taking the next few minutes to have people getting on with us and joining us for something super exciting. I'm not even going to introduce this guy yet because we're going to introduce him later. He's ornamental for the moment, right?
Okay, yeah.
But only for the moment. Oh, this is
here
great.
For my looks.
Exactly. That's what I tell my husband. You're my arm candy, you know? Oh, great to have you guys with us here. So happy. Let me go over a couple things that I'm going to be doing, going to be talking about throughout our webinar. First of all, next weekend, next Sunday, this very moment, 2 p.m., we are in Pacific time, for those of you around the world. Pacific time, I'm going to be doing a webinar, and it's going to be super exciting. I'm going to change this just a touch here. Good. It's going to be super exciting. You guys, this is the first webinar I've done where I feel like truly anyone could benefit from it. Anyone. It is for religious abuse survivors, but it's also for your grown kids, your spouse, your mom, your dad, your friends, whatever. We all have black and white thinking. The webinar is the all or nothing mindset. And it's great for all kinds of people who are going through trauma or difficulty, who have gone through trauma, who have had rough upbringings, who've had great upbringings, but still have some pretty rigid thinking. So, you know, it can impact relationships big time. It can impact depression and anxiety hugely. Happiness factor. So I want everybody that can to be there next week. I'm really more excited about this coming seminar than I have been. So welcome. I see a few of you are with us, but give us a shout out if you would like to. Say hello. We'd love to know who's here with us. One more thing about the webinar. There's going to be handouts, and at the very end, I'm not usually a step-by-step person. I kind of go, oh, don't give me 3 steps to do that. But I like this one, 7 steps to how to start working with all or nothing thinking. And I think after my years in therapy myself, as well as doing therapy with hundreds of people, I like what I've got going on. So we will welcome you very much to join us at that point. So, all right, let's go ahead and get started. Oh my goodness. First of all, I want to remind our viewers, and I'm going to do this throughout. This is on, a lot of you watching are from from a private group, from a closed group. This is open territory here. The public can view this. We want the public to hear what Ken has to say today. We want that, but I want to remind you that nothing in here is private that you might put up on the screen. So we're thrilled to have you. And I say, I'm going to start some introductions here. Figure out who this guy is. Who is this sitting here with me? This is Ken Garrett. And Ken, interestingly, how I came to know about Ken is someone told me, I think, about you. Was that right? I got in touch with you first, I think. Yes. Yeah. Somebody told me, you need to get in touch with Ken Garrett. And I came home and I said, yeah, somebody said, I said to my husband, I need to get in touch with Ken Garrett. You know, I didn't ask. He goes, Ken Garrett, he's awesome. And when my husband really is pretty emphatic about, he's a good guy. I'm like, oh, okay. Because my husband isn't emphatic about a lot of people. And he's like, he's a good guy. I'm like, great. Because I heard I said, this is somebody who's doing their doctoral dissertation on religious abuse. My mind was blown. I'm like, is this already happening? I'm so happy that it is. So, and then to find out he's here in the area. And my husband knew him from working at the Portland Rescue Mission. And Ken, your connection with your church?
Yes.
Yeah.
Downtown.
So Ken is, I don't even think I know everything I need to say about Ken. He is a member of, I was just trying to get this right, International Cult Studies Institute Association, which I've heard about them for years and kind of kept track of them. He is a member there. Interestingly, we're going to talk about him actually being what? A pastor and working in this arena. So I'm super excited about that. Some of you hang on, you'll love him. Just hold on. No, that's part of why I want you on here, Ken.
Sure.
Ken has a wonderful and adorable, just as high quality as, probably higher than Ken is, quality wife, who is just amazing. Sharon is just a joy, and I've been able to spend some time with her as well. Ken, what else do they need to know about you? This is not rehearsal. We're just chatting here today. What else do they need to know about you?
Oh, I don't know.
Got some good grown kids, grandkids?
Yeah, born and raised in Portland.
Okay.
And still live right there.
Right there.
Now I live in the neighborhood I grew up in. And I have 3 grown children, 3 daughters.
Yes.
Yeah.
Lots of femininity and estrogen in the home.
Oh yeah,
Totally.
And a son-in-law and 2 grandchildren. Yeah,
Okay.
so doing good. And I've been downtown at Grace Church for almost 17 years now.
Wow.
Yeah.
17 years.
Yeah.
I love that. And you do some really unique stuff there. You do just a little flavor of what goes on there.
Well, we do a lot of English second language training for the many students that are around there. I think we have about a half a dozen classes throughout the week.
Because it's like in the PSU area, right?
Oh, yeah.
State.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So you've got all this. Yeah.
Yeah. And we have a pretty interesting prayer healing rooms that happens on Wednesday night.
Okay.
That's just kind of some friends, another ministry that runs that.
Okay. And they kind of come in and use that space.
Yes. It's a friend from seminary.
Okay.
And they're a wonderful ministry. And then we have a large Chinese fellowship that started in our church and meets on Sunday nights, where they have a home-cooked Chinese meal, English second language, and then some music and stuff. Yeah.
Okay.
And then we're very tied into the homeless community.
Yes, that's
and,
the one. Yeah.
And so we always have something going on, taking care of our neighbors. After this many years, we know them by name, and they know me by name.
Yeah.
So we're kind of a little neighborhood down there.
Yeah, you really are in many ways a pastor to the homeless. I mean, you are, not all of them, but those people that you know and have connection with, and there again, that's not the whole population of your church by any means, but there's a real welcome and embracing of that, which just does my heart really good. So,
sure.
Yeah.
And a lot of the members in our church have been without a home in their own experience.
Okay.
And so we're always pretty close to that aspect of the streets.
Okay. Yeah. So Ken, the reason we've got you on here is I am just super excited. We tried to have you on, several of you I'm sure remember.
Technical
we
glitch.
tried to have him on, 40 minutes of trying to get him on last week. And you see how well that went? He's right here with me because
not going to risk it again.
We're, let's say we're both over 35.
Yeah.
And I've done this well before, and for whatever reason, it was just crazy.
No, I'm not throwing the dice on
No,
that.
exactly. I really wanted you to be, Ken, we're just going to get us in the same space to do this today.
Yeah, sure.
And I want to hear, and you guys, I'm going to be watching. I don't know. Are you watching this? My husband's here in the room too. Are you watching this, honey? No. Okay. Because I'm not seeing anybody say hi and nothing come up, and I'm hoping I'm catching everything. Yeah, if you wouldn't mind taking a look, hon, just to make sure that I'm not missing a bunch of comments. Actually, I could check hold on just a second. I'm gonna check my phone on this, you guys, before we get into this, because I just want to make sure.
I know at least my wife and daughters are going to be logging on.
Yes, and we've got several people logged on. It's a matter of we've got several people logged on. I'm just trying to see whether I'm missing any comments. I don't think I am. So, all right, sounds great. All right, let's get into the good stuff here. Oh, somebody just gave a thumbs up to us. It gave it. A couple people that have 5 comments. See, this is the problem. I've got. Oh, there we go.
That's
we're
my
on.
son-in-law.
Aaron. Okay, they're still broadcasting. No, I don't want to leave this page. Stay on the page. They're coming up. All right, sounds great. Aaron, that's your son-in-law.
That's my son-in-law.
Oh, welcome, Aaron. Good to meet you. Right?
Yeah.
Oh, wonderful. And hello, Tammy, Rachel. Oh, Julianne. Way to have
my
you.
daughter.
Rachel? Got the kids going on. My daughter might join. Janae pops in on these sometimes. So, and Sherry, hello. All right, I think we're actually seeing some stuff now. Good. Wonderful. I thought that was a little odd. So welcome. And Julianne, thank you. I just said to Ken, Julianne gave us a shout out. So I haven't even met Julianne face to face. Girl, you know, I've been wanting to meet you for 2 to 4 years. So we're gonna do that.
We're gonna get you guys together
on
yes.
Wednesday night.
Julianne won't be here, so you might not see her till the 21st.
Okay, the 21st. Ken, first of all, before we get more into a story, Ken, tell us about the 21st. Give us the spiel, and then we're going to do this again at the end because this is a big deal.
Thank you. Yeah, on the 21st, we're going to have, we're hosting with the International Cultic Studies Association. We're hosting a one-day conference at Kennedy McMiniman School over in Northeast Portland, and it is on spiritual abuse. And we've got incredible speakers like Connie and some other folks that are covering a broad range of topics. And I'm looking for this to be not just an academic kind of thing, because most of these things that we do in Portland are mostly survivors.
Yes, yeah. That's our heart, is to say who needs care. You and I both been bleeding out an artery at some point along this recovery journey, and we want to be there. Sure.
Right. So this is not a academia type thing. No. This is really a bunch of us survivors getting together, and
but there's some really
cool.
sharp people.
Oh yeah,
there's some sharp people. I'm looking at, we got somebody from Lewis and Clark coming.
Yes, Margaret Eichler.
Yes, we got some great people, and so I'm so excited. So anybody who is a spiritual abuse survivor or just wants to be informed or educated or help somebody, that you are so very, very welcome to be here with us. Yeah. So, Ken, how much is the cost on that? I've forgotten.
$25, and lunch is included.
$25. Okay, this is a huge gift to you guys. Those of you, 25 tiny little dollars. Basically, that's your lunch. I mean,
it's covering lunch, basically.
What a gift.
And if anybody had trouble, please come, and I will take care of everything.
Absolutely, And Ken wants anybody who wants to be there, and I do too. I do too. I'm going to adjust this just a little bit again here. It's driving me a little crazy. Okay. We're trying to get this somewhere around middle, but there we go. Whatever. Here we are, folks. So yes, I'm so excited about this conference because I don't think in the Portland area that I know of, I've never heard of a coming together like this.
No.
Of different people from different.
No.
And important to note, this is not a faith-based conference. This is survivors. There are going to be people still in the faith there, speakers still in the faith. There's going to be people not in a faith there, speakers not in a faith. So this is there's no big spiritual agenda for this. I want to make that clear to my viewers. This is just, how can we get better from this crazy that we've been through?
Exactly. Yeah, there's not, in our monthly meetups that we do for spiritual abuse survivors, we are comprised of survivors from fundamentalist LDS polygamy groups, Buddhist cults, political cults, white supremacy cults. Seems like there's some other ones too. So we're not an overtly religious thing.
Exactly. And I think that's good. Some of you won't mind either way, but I want to let all of you know what's going on there. Yeah. Okay, back to Ken's story. Very exciting. Ken, tell us the basics. What has brought you to be putting on something like this? Who are you? Where have you been?
All right. Well, in 1984, Sharon and I returned to Portland after my military time was over, and we were gung-ho looking for a church, a certain kind of church.
Okay.
We wanted something small, very, very personal, with some good discipleship training. We wanted to be trained in the disciplines and the practice of our faith. And we thought in terms of wanting our faith to be a 7-day-a-week experience. And really, as a young couple, we were pregnant with our first. We wanted the feeling of a community where we could raise our families together.
Yeah.
Okay.
You're very family oriented. I'm assuming somewhere in the 20s.
Oh yeah, I was 24. Sharon was, I think, 22.
Wow, you guys were young.
We were kids. Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
So you're there saying, let's have our babies. Let's have community and roots and all those things.
Yes, absolutely. We wanted to share that whole. Sharon and I aren't exactly baby boomers, but we were never really into the commune thing, but we were really enchanted with it.
Yes,
and
yeah.
so we were looking for something like that. And so we came to Portland, returning home, and I got a job right away. I was a paramedic for 23 years, and so I was on the job. And another paramedic came in one morning. I was still a new employee, and saw that I had a Bible out, and she was just having my coffee and reading my Bible, and she started engaging me in a discussion about my life and what I wanted, and did I have a church? And I said no. She said, "What are you looking for in a church?" And I said, I'd like something small, maybe a house church that really has discipleship. And she said, "Donna, Donna, Donna, Donna."
Yeah, totally.
Well, guess
and
what?
I have for you.
Yes.
Yeah, totally.
We are thick as thieves now, and she's apologized for recruiting me, as I've had to do to many paramedics.
Yeah.
But anyway, we joined a small church that met in the kind of the outskirts of town. And it was led by a very charismatic and what ended up, I understanding, to be a very disordered person, very narcissistic.
But at the beginning, you're not looking at this person as a narcissist.
Oh no!
I mean, they're charismatic, they're vibrant, they're a leader. You're saying, "Wow, this is good stuff."
At 24, who knows the word narcissist?
No,
I just wanted to,
No.
Sharon just wanted the community thing, and I just wanted to preach. I felt like I belonged preaching somewhere.
Yeah.
And so very quickly, we were really recruited into this group, and we became increasingly invested in it to the point of, in the course of our time there, selling 2 homes near Los, and 2 homes. And we ended up renting a room from a pastor in a large house that was thought of in our ministry as a living situation. That's what we called it. And what it was a home for discipleship training, for real spiritual.
Was it just you and your pastor's family and your family, or were there other families?
Other
involved?
families.
Okay,
Oh,
more families.
And
this is a big
singles.
house.
Right.
Other families.
Yeah.
Was everybody that was in this church living there?
No, there were several
Someone
houses.
else. Okay,
There were several houses. And things really started going south pretty quick. Not after moving in, they really had before. With a lot of abuse and really all of the signs you would look for in a cult or a high demand group.
Like what? What do you mean? I would love for you to say briefly, if you could, Ken. What did you see as abusive, or now in retrospect?
In retrospect, yeah.
And what were the cult signs now that you would have been able to see?
Sure. Well, the entire recruitment process into an abusive type situation like this always begins with some form of deception. It could be a purposeful deception, or it could just be a fraudulent claim to be able to do something that you really can't do.
Right.
It's like if you join a multi-level marketing and they try to tell you you're going to make $100,000.
Right.
Well, you
Some
could.
people did.
But so there's always deception. But Steve Hassan's a cult recovery expert, and he has a model that I think is easiest to explain. His model is called the BITE model.
Okay.
And these groups, first off, the B stands for behavior. They enforce, and it's coercion, but it's really through emotional pressure, change and alter behavior through a rewards and punishment system within the group, whether you're in or out, whether you're included.
That doesn't have to be explicit. That can kind of be, the rewards and punishments can be subtle, right?
Exactly. Oh yeah. It's just maybe the reward of being included on a trip to the movies with the right people.
Right.
And really want to be in that group.
The inner circles. You're always trying to get toward the middle.
Yes. Okay. So that's a big part of the modification of behavior of these groups. Another one is the I would be information. Information is controlled.
Restricted, yes.
Yeah, in terms of what kind of ideas are rewarded and tolerated, which ones are derided and mocked.
Right.
And it comes down to what Bible teachers or what ministries are we on board with, even what historic figures do we appreciate, and then which ones we think were clowns. And so the information is tightly controlled. within the group in terms of what's okay to say and what's okay to not say,
Yeah.
and what is truth or not.
Yes.
A type of pseudoscience is really developed within these groups in the world of politics, in the world of everything, where the leaders make statements about politics
Yes.
or medicine or
Yes.
food or something
Yes.
that, well, it's like Chairman Mao writing in a little red book about how mothers should feed their children.
Yep.
It's,
Yep.
you know, what is
Down
this
to
guy
these-
doing that?
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. What does he even know about that?
Yeah,
But,
yeah.
but still, there's so much of this legislation, be it really overt to really covert. There's all these
Yes,
things that
yes.
and you said a word earlier that really catches my attention, and that's ridicule. It is
Yeah.
a powerful tool.
Sure.
You get a leader, a pastor, a priest, something in a public platform. I'm thinking just public, although this happens private as well. But if something is ridiculed publicly within
Yes.
that community, those are powerful.
Yes.
Bam!
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
you know you are in or out at that. Something's ridiculed by the leader in a unhealthy and cultic / abusive situation, and you can't. That chasm, you can't bridge it. You can't come back and go, but I like that guy.
You don't like what's not liked by the
Yeah,
leaders.
especially
And also it's a very effective way of controlling an entire group
It's
by
totally
generalizing
Yes.
one enemy
yes.
that everybody might have in common. Okay, let's just say that you want to do what all cults want to do, is to break off healthy family relationships,
Yes.
so family and former non-group friends. So from the pulpit, you start preaching about the superficiality of American Christianity and the
Yep.
syrupy phoniness of the family and all the damage that parents do to their children. And you don't have to name any person or any family or any parent, but you have let everyone know the information
Yes.
that from now on, it's really okay to not go to birthdays anymore.
Right. The
not
families
show
are
up for
suspect.
Christmas.
They're
Yeah.
suspect.
Yeah.
Families do a lot of damage, and it's not a one-time message.
No.
It's over.
It's
and
a
over.
lifestyle. Yeah.
Exactly, and you
Yeah.
hear it in conversation, casual conversation. These sort of things get implied,
Yes.
and
yeah.
but it's so powerful
Yes.
with those implications.
Yes,
So
yes.
yeah,
They take root, and that was pretty damaging. It ended up alienating us from our family and our friends
So
because
sad.
we bought the idea on one level.
yes,
And once you get into these groups and you are first of all recruited and then you are indoctrinated
Right.
before you are considered deployable, which means you can be entrusted with the dogma and teachings of the group to go out to work and spread their word.
Yeah.
That's deployable. So we got further and further isolated and whatnot from people.
how sad.
Yeah,
Oh, man.
yeah.
And even the word, can I go back just a
Yeah,
minute? You
sure.
said something about you were recruited. To me,
Right.
that sounds so close to grooming.
Yeah.
In
yeah.
abuse.
Mhm.
It's like you're being given favor. You're saying we want you. You're special.
Right.
We think you would really fit. I mean, is that the sort of language that could be used? What happens with the recruiting?
It is a grooming, but it doesn't always take place from the person who's going to gain from your recruitment.
Got it. Okay,
Okay.
so it could use the people. The what's the better word? The laity. The people in the
Yeah,
maybe
they're
not the
trained.
laity.
Now they would call it something like evangelism
Mm-hmm.
or outreach or something like that, and which in its proper practices, you're talking about your faith.
Right.
But in the destructive and abusive groups, these words are actually recruitment. And there's a short period of otherwise known as love bombing.
Yep.
And the purpose of that is to not only lower your guards in the group, but also to gently guide you to cut off all of the escape hatch relationships in your life.
People who would give you an accurate mirror back.
Oh
about
yeah,
what's going
yeah.
on.
Why
get
are
them
you
out of the
hanging
way.
out with them? Their lives are going
Right.
a different direction now. And so once you've strangled off all of those key relationships and avenues of support, then the love bombing stops, and the indoctrination begins, where you are left with this strange dynamic of needing your abuser,
Yes.
which is usually the guy, the pastor.
Yep.
Needing his affirmation, because
Approval.
most of the time it's men, you need that, but at the same time, he's the source of your terror.
Yes.
And so it causes you to be very vulnerable to behaviors and thinking. And for us, we were a terribly legalistic church, but not in the way most churches are legalistic.
Oh, yes.
We were legalistic in that we all smoked the same brand of cigarettes. Okay. And we really were very, isn't that? Yeah.
I love this.
It's really the best way to kind of explain it. The reason it was legalism is because it had its own set of agreements and rules that the members had to live by to maintain good status in the group.
Yes, totally. That's legalism right there.
Right.
Abide by these rules and you're in. You break the rules and you're out.
Absolutely.
And the rules are very arbitrary from cult to religious system to religious system. I mean, it's like people pick the rules, but that legalism, right? Well, I often say that the church where I went through the abuse, the main one, it was known for being cool. You know, it was
a cool church.
It was known for being cool.
Good, yeah.
It was known for, we don't wear, I mean, this is back in the 80s. We don't wear ties to church. Oh, why'd that guy wear a suit to church? Wow, that's weird.
That's not cool.
No, exactly. You know, in this conservative world, but boy, you got to the very core and it was rigid. It looked like it wasn't legalistic and they took pride in it. But boy, at the core, you're like, whoa, you can't cross a line. Yeah. Ken, let's take a moment.
That's the behavior, sure.
Yeah, I'm going to take some look at see what we got. Julianne, we'll make it happen. Thank you, Julianne. My mama's here on. Carolyn, thank you, Mama. Sherry. Oh, good. Thank you for posting that, Sherry. That's to our webinar. Oh, and Sharon's here.
Me
and Kathleen. Sharon, hello. And Kathleen and Gail, welcome. Yes, Sharon is the adorable, wonderful woman I was telling you about earlier. Yes, that's her. So, his wife. All right, so good. So you've got this. So I'm thinking, first of all, Ken, you know, here I'm almost 55, and I'm thinking 24 years old, your sweet wife 22.
Yeah.
You've got age that's a big factor in this.
Sure,
no insult to the 20s, but you know, I mean, up to 25, 26, your brain's still developing. You know, you're just getting, so there's the age issue. What else do you think? I look at you, Ken, you've got a doctorate. You know, you're bright, you're socially and emotionally astute. You got good intelligence in these areas. You're a great guy. You got a good heart.
Go on. Yeah.
Keep it coming. No. How did this happen to you?
Good question. Yeah.
You know, because we tend to, people who don't understand this will go, what? They're brighter than that. Why would they get sucked in? I mean, you've already given us some great info on that, but is there anything you haven't said that, there were some other components to how this
thank you. Sure. Yeah. I have gone around about this. I've been out for 23 years now, so it's a long time. And I've gone round and around about, what was it about me?
Right.
And that did that. And I thought to myself, well, you were out of the military. You were a paratrooper.
I heard that earlier. I just went, you just got out of the military.
Yeah.
I mean, I made that connection when you said
I was vulnerable. I hadn't adjusted yet.
And you were also used to intense structure.
Yes.
Intense authoritarian structure. Yeah. And I'm like, I never put those two together.
Yeah, I wanted to be a Green Beret Christian, basically.
Yes.
I think,
Yes.
But there was more to it than that. Our marriage was in a lot of trouble, and like any new marriage.
Sure.
But we had been in North Carolina for a couple of years away from everybody, which was really nice. But we had no support.
Yes, that's rough. Especially with pregnant, she's pregnant and ass, like,
And I look back now and I think, God grief, Sharon was a child.
Yes.
And I was a child. And we had all kinds of problems. So we were hoping for help in our marriage that made us very vulnerable and needy for that. Yeah, she wanted discipleship for me to keep me under control. And I wanted discipleship to make me a preacher.
Yes.
I mean, we had our things,
and it fits your agendas really well.
Yes,
it's like unless I'm just going to be a little sexist on the woman's side here. There is a point with a 24-year-old kid. It's like a lot of women are socially and relationally ahead of their husbands at that age. It
Yes.
takes a while, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, he's not
Yeah.
far along as my girlfriends are," you know. And so
Exactly.
it's like,
Yeah.
what is wrong? Why is he not catching on? And
Yeah.
she says, "In get help, somebody keep
Yes.
Ken go in the right
Yeah.
direction."
Yeah.
And you're saying, yes, because I have dreams and
Yeah.
goals,
Yeah.
and I want to preach. This is so. It worked really great for both of you.
Oh
in that
yeah,
regard.
it was perfect. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah. So
man.
we were vulnerable for it, but
Mhm.
honestly, if that was the main vulnerability that brought somebody into
Mhm.
a group like this, groups like that would be full of people like that.
Totally,
But they're not.
No, there's multiple factors going on.
It really, yeah, and it really comes down to, I think, the more than the vulnerabilities of the person being recruited, it comes down to the skill of the recruiter.
Oh, good
and
point.
the ethical flaws of the leader of the group.
Yeah.
It's almost on the level of if you and JR went to the beach for the weekend and you're down there and suddenly there's an earthquake and there's a tsunami.
Yeah.
And let's just hope you live, but everything you lose whatever you have.
Yeah.
I mean, life
We're
goes
running
really
for the
south,
hills,
right?
Mhm.
And then you spent the rest of your life trying to figure out what you did wrong.
Yes.
Well, you
Good.
got overwhelmed
Yes.
by, you were
A
vulnerable
tsunami.
because you were at 20 feet above sea level,
Yes.
and it all came
Yeah.
together. That's how these groups operate.
Ken,
Yeah.
I love that. This is the tension I had in writing my book, because I did a chapter on susceptibility.
I see.
And I think
Yeah.
I said about 5, 6, 7 times, this is not to blame the victim, because there's nothing, you put me right back at 25 years old where I was
Right.
when my abuse happened. And it would happen the exact same way,
Yes.
because I was who I was and where I was. And that's why I think I hold two things here. Number one, it is in no way your fault. Ever.
Absolutely not.
No. There's skilled structures, there's skilled leaders, there's skilled systems in place that will suck you in. And to me, I'm like, yes, and I hold that with, I want to say what were potentially some factors, and you gave several, and I love even how you did it. Yes, all that, and still,
Sure.
I'm not to blame, and it would have happened because for multiple reasons. It was a perfect storm,
Yes.
in all kinds of things.
Yeah.
And yours was more on the spectrum of what I say to semi-healthy religious institutions to cults. A
Yes.
lot of my audience is over here. We're pushing. You got into something that was pretty.
Yes.
Clearly,
Yeah.
it was a cult.
Yeah.
And so I guess I look at this, and there's that spectrum involved of even susceptibility of, wow, what was my neediness at that point? And I don't see that in a judgmental way, not need, but just where, like you and Sharon, we want to build a good family. We want our marriage to be strong. Beautiful. I don't know.
Sure.
So I guess I look at that as a bit of a tension, holding those, because I never want to. I'm gonna go toward that end of saying, nope, don't worry about it. It happened.
Yeah.
With that, I think there's also sometimes internal stuff we can do, especially in recovery, to go, oh, I don't want that happening again.
Yes.
And I don't want to, or I don't want to just shift that susceptibility to another domain in life, maybe not cult, but political or business.
Yeah.
Does that make
absolutely.
sense?
It
And
sure does.
so I love what you're saying there.
Yeah.
I really
Mhm.
100% agree. You're like, yeah, there were things, and doesn't matter.
Yeah,
Skill.
there were other paramedics with the same character that I had.
Yeah.
They just didn't have their Bible out one day with a cup of coffee
Boy.
when this particular
Perfect storm.
other paramedic showed up.
Tsunami. Yep,
Yeah.
there it is.
Yeah.
We just happened to be at the beach that day.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Wow, very good. So
Yeah.
Ken, let's look at, I got a question here, but let's take a quick look. Oh, hello, Teresa and Amy. Hello there, Karen. Karen, yay. Good to have you. All right, wonderful, you guys. Good to have you all here. Isn't this fun? I'm loving this so much. So much better than me yapping at the camera, right?
Oh.
Okay. No, this is so fun. So Ken, I'm thinking of your story. Let me look at the time. Oh, good. We're doing good. First of all, quick reminder, nobody's writing a lot of personal information on this, which is great. Let me remind you that this is not are, a lot of you viewers are from my group. This is not the group. This is a very, very public page. So anything you write can be seen by anybody who gets on. So just to let you know, remind you guys of that. So, all right, wonderful. And again, you can put personal info if you don't mind. I mean, hello, Ken and I are on here. We're putting personal info out here. But if you don't mind that, that's great. No problem. I just don't want anybody to be caught off guard. So, all right, you guys, let's go back. So, how did you get out? What happened? How that play out?
It was a long process, which it usually is. It usually takes a while because there's a deeper part of you. I believe as a Christian, I would call it my soul, but there's a part of you that is simply not for sale or trade. And that part gets so covered over, by the false you. Yeah. But that part of you, I think, is always trying to attack the false part of you. Yeah. And in time, most people leave cults. Yeah. And I should say something about what a cult is, but most people leave these groups.
That's actually one of the things. What Dr. It isn't on here.
I'll say something.
No, because I really do, because we talked about that. I wanted you to find some stuff around.
Yeah, that's important. Mm-hmm. But anyway, so that part of me started itching really 3 or 4 years after being in the group. Mm-hmm. But by that time, my marriage was really in trouble. Sharon and I distrusted each other so much that I was afraid she would basically rat me out to church leaders if I was complaining about the church. And it's funny, recently I was interviewed by a radio station about this, and they said...
Let's say this, you were on, what, OPB?
NPR.
NPR! Yeah. NPR! Oh my gosh, so exciting. I can't wait till it comes out.
I can't either.
I know, so fun.
Well, the interviewer was really great, and she asked, she said, what was your trip home from church like on the first Sunday you visited? And I said, well, that's interesting. We both were feeling some things that we did not share with one another because it would challenge the rap that we had laid out to each other about being so interested in Christian growth and all that, because now you found it. Yeah. And so you couldn't admit, I was a little uncomfortable when they said this, and then they want me to be right back, but we didn't communicate. And she said, how long did that last? And I said, until the day 12 years later that we drove away and high-fived each other with our kids, a few clothing, and my guitar, and drove away.
With the clothes on your back.
That's when we had talked a little before that, of course, but that's when we started talking again.
Wow, the stakes were so high, not just between you and the church leadership, but between you and your wife.
Oh, yes.
I mean, that is... Yeah. I hope you guys are hearing that. That is huge. Yeah. So this is not just, in a non-cult situation, you can kind of go home and hope your place is not bugged, and your home's not bugged, and you go, I'm so uncomfortable. What about you? Yeah, me too. Mm-hmm. This is so enmeshed. Everything is so that you're getting way further up on the spectrum here, where you can't even talk to each other. Yeah. It's like, it's so heartbreaking.
Yeah, and then your children, because we're in a communal living situation, the children could pick up that, dad's a little mistrusted by the pastor who doesn't like dad anymore. So they start wondering if something's wrong with dad.
What's wrong with dad? Right.
So it just gets really weird.
So many family dynamics.
Yeah. So it was really falling apart for a long time. And Sharon came around, and then we kind of turned into a good subversive team together, planning our life.
But it still takes time to get out. I mean, oh my goodness.
Yeah, it sure does. Yeah.
Oh, because it's like, this whole thing, I work with a lot of domestic violence. And by domestic violence, I don't mean just physical, but the psychological and, control things in a marriage. And this is so similar. I mean, a lot of times women know they're going to leave long before they're able to, because they have to do so much groundwork and preparation for their safety and the safety of their family. This is what's going on.
Absolutely.
It's like you had to build strength. You had to build muscle to go, how do I exercise this thing enough to actually pull out and have a plan and be safe? Yeah. That's so domestic violence. Yeah. It's like, it's crazy.
It was. Yeah.
Man. So Ken, what happened then? You left. You finally. There's so many other questions I want to ask about the story, but I'll keep moving. How in the world did you start trying to make sense of this, rewire? I mean, that's a long process.
It was tough. And my comfortable place was picking up and moving ahead with my plan for being a pastor.
Okay.
And so I went to seminary.
Okay.
And,
You got a plan, let's just move with it.
Yeah. Not the healthiest thing in the world to go to seminary a year after leaving what you feel is a cult.
No.
But that's what I did, and it was my safe place.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, that's like me getting out of the horrible, abusive church and sexual abuse with the pastor and marrying my husband within 2 years. You know, it was like, it was definitely tumultuous and volcanic internally.
Yeah.
And yet I would not recommend it, but it was exactly what we needed. It was exactly what we needed. And it was beautiful. And it was I would do it exactly the same way.
Yeah.
Not always recommended.
No.
You know, but you're right. You almost needed that safe place for some stability, is my thought. To say, how do I, and you're sorting some stuff out in the process.
Yeah. I had some wonderful professors at Western Seminary. And although they didn't, a couple of them, but most everybody looked like a deer in the headlights when I would talk about this, because they had no way of understanding a Christian church with good doctrine being cultic.
Right.
And that's a lot of what my studies were about, is how that can exist together. Yeah.
My growing up years, cults were always equated with bad doctrine.
Yes.
You know, that's, I mean, this is back to the 70s, you know, 70s and 80s. You just looked at it and said, well, if it's a cult, it's bad doctrine. How? And that is where, even in taking the cult out and bring it into just a really abusive church.
Yes.
They can have whatever you want to call, wherever you want to call what the best doctrine is, wherever you're at in your journey. They could have doctrine in this conservative mindset that I grew up in. They could have perfect doctrine, and it was you couldn't understand why it would be a cult.
Oh yeah.
And that's why they're probably they're having to make new categories for your story.
Yes, and that's what led me to the studies that I got into. Was that I found in studying churches, first off, nobody would relate a church as a cult. And there was very little writing done about it. There were some great books, but most of them stayed firmly in the realm of Christian scholarship. And I began, this is my doctoral studies, I began to understand there was a whole world of secular scholarship dealing with all cults and studies, and that there were people who knew a lot more than me and probably most of the Christian writers.
Wow.
And so I just pursued their resources and studying
because they've done some hard work. They plowed ground.
Yes.
Well, you and I both have the background of conservative evangelicalism.
Yes.
They did. We have not gone deep or wide in that.
No.
At all.
And that's why we probably, I don't know if you're the same as me, but we probably hear very little from churches about this issue.
Oh.
They only want to talk to me when somebody comes to them who they think was in a cult or a bad church. And that's wonderful that they want to help. But very few churches have grappled with the idea that about the cult issue. And here's the deal. I usually don't use the word cult. I do a lot. I don't know why I am today, but I usually don't that much, because it's hurtful. To a person who is in one of these groups, it is almost impossible for them to continue to engage.
And there's such stigma. That word has so much stigma.
And a lot of them will say, no, we believe in the full divinity of Jesus Christ and all that. So what I believe cult is, and this is along with the International Cultic Study Association's
definition of it.
It's a spectrum of behavioral of the environment and the behaviorisms of a particular group. And it always falls in about 8 different areas. And ending with a painful on departure. And so it's better to think of it as cult-like.
Yes.
And I avoid the cult word a lot of the time simply because I can't control how everybody understands it.
Exactly.
It's better to understand it by behavior. Yeah.
Exactly. To me, it's a word, like in my profession, I don't like using the word codependence, because it's a fly around word that's defined. It has no technical definition that I know of, academically. You know what I mean? And it's just and people use it in such different ways to define different things. And so, I really respect that. So the definition of a cult with the ICSA is very behaviorally defined. It's not a theological issue.
Oh, no.
It is behavior. How does this thing happen?
Yeah.
What are its characteristics?
Well, it happens, like I was talking about, through the recruitment phase and through isolating people from otherwise divergent views or safety, what you might think of as escape paths. And with that isolation, then comes usually assertions of elitism. We're better than those Baptists down the street, or at least we're not Catholic, or something like that. The elitism, which further isolates. And then there's a common language that's developed. Certain words mean certain things in your group.
Coded language, that was a part of my chapter.
Yes.
Totally. It's a big deal.
And then there's always a movement for confession that involves the member, and this stuff was kind of perfected by the Chinese government, actually, but in the 1940s and 50s. But it's the cult of confession, where you continually rake yourself over the coals of how you are not aligning with the dogma of the group, and that corrupts your own ability to think about yourself. And that is the
your
goal.
Own integrity, your own ethical standards. You can't align with those. You have to align with the external.
And that's why you don't need chains or bars or anything to keep people in a cult in America. You simply need to get into their soul and redefine where they feel their worth comes from.
Well, it's also, from a psychological level, I'm thinking as a therapist, this is also constant vulnerability to an authority figure, where you're having to, it's one-way transparency. And as a therapist, I have to be super attuned to that, because the power differential is enormous. I forget about it because I'm just chatting with my, I always say, I just feel like I'm just chatting with my client. They're just another human and a human. When I go to therapy, I feel that power differential hugely. I'm like, I'm the one stripping naked here, so to speak. And so I'm thinking about that confession. It isn't just a theological thing, but it also has an exposure element to where you're I think of a Scientologist and that, oh gosh, what is that thing they do? It's
the E-gram.
Whatever. It's some weird thing that's supposed to be, like a lie detector. They go in there and this level of exposure to the higher ups, to people with more power.
And they remember it.
And it's used against them. And it is all those, but we can put that in theological terms of confession.
That's the word used.
And
in my case, we ended up in court a few years ago from some litigation, which I'll talk about if you want, but basically we ended up in court over allegations of the pastor having molested children. And I was a witness for the prosecution. And one day when I was up there on the stand, the lawyer started quoting things that I had confessed when I was 24 and 25 years old.
Oh, that makes my skin crawl.
In front of my daughters, my wife, the whole public. And I'm not sure of all their motives in that. It didn't do me any real damage, but that's confession horrifying issue in a group like that.
Right. And now in a public situation, a public legal arena, it's getting just thrown right back at you.
It's public record now. Sure.
Oh my goodness, Ken. Brief story. Let me check the time here and see comments. I want to hear a little bit about that. All right. Sherry. Yes, Sherry reminds me of Scientology. Totally. Julianne, abusive church leaders are experts at destroying the foundation of relationships. Yes. Totally. Wives, partners, children. You end up disturbing those who used to be safe because of the manipulation, love bombing by the totally. That's well put. Good summary, Julie. And Kathy says they also do a good job of destroying relationship with others within the church, or divide tends to happen.
Oh yeah.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Well, that's that inner circle, outer circle. The rules of how to get as close as you can to the inner circle, and then wedges being totally, Kathy. Those who agree with the leader and those who are questioning, absolutely, you guys. And we're talking about a really strong end of the spectrum here. But I know my listeners out here who are recovering in some ways from good old standard evangelicalism. There still are such these are still the elements. It's subtler, it's looser, it's not as intensely cemented and rigid as it would be in your situation.
Sure.
The signs are more subtle, but they are absolutely still here.
Yes,
I mean,
yes.
it's so transferable, which makes me sad. And this is not a slam against evangelicalism. A lot of you guys are, and I have no beef with that. I love that. That's fine. But what I've seen is the more fundamentalist in thought, I don't usually say this publicly, but the more fundamentalist in thought, the more the structure and system is much more fertile for abuse because of the rigidity, because of the strong in, out, you, them, the strong, these are the rules, the legalities, and there again, I'm not saying that every fundamentalist church is abusive. What I am saying is the seeds grow quicker and easier there.
I think you're right.
It's just a setup for that. Because of multiple factors, but those are something. I usually say that in public, but I'm doing it. And I'm not slamming that. I'm just saying let's be alert to it. Because there's abuse in any religious system. I mean, you've got Buddhists that are there that actually can tend to be a little loosey goose in some ways, but they're still so they're. This is, you guys know me at least enough, and clearly you don't know Ken, but I know him. We're not bashing anything, but I do want to point that out. They're on a spectrum. I know a lot of my listeners are going, okay, he went through something that we might call a cult, and but this is applicable in some areas of recovery to make sense of what was this subtle thing that happened to my head.
And I do a lot of help in pastoral care for people that aren't Christians, that come out of Eastern cults, yoga cults, all of these cults. It's all over. But my area of expertise and experience is with the church, so that's kind of my main bread and butter to talk about. And I don't think it's good to look at it as a cult spectrum, because the people that you've mentioned, they're not in a cult, but they're in severely unhealthy and hurtful churches.
And there are cult-like things in there. And so that's taking it out, facets and spectrums. That's what I try to do. It's not just even a spectrum. There are also little component parts within. A church might be really healthy over here on one end and really unhealthy here in another component part. And so at least like people, it's very complicated. So how would you conceptualize that? What would you do with that spectrum? What would you do with that, Ken?
Well, you can't really first of all, I would not measure it by the leader, because narcissistic leaders are so good at it that you wouldn't know what they're up to. And some other leaders are just guys that shouldn't have ended up in the job they're in. They shouldn't be pastors, and they're not mature the way they should be. So what you do, the best way is to evaluate the experience of the member. So if you are in a marriage where you just aren't safe to talk about whatever you want to talk about, to where you're afraid to bring up that issue with him because he's going to respond, or he doesn't want to mention this to you because you're just going to go off on him. If you're in that kind of a marriage and that kind of marriage is supported by your church, you're in a bad church.
Oh, they're good.
Okay.
It's the confluence, right? It's the intersection of different systems within your life reinforcing each other.
If you dose up on that when you go to church, or your children, or your feelings about gay people, or your feelings about whatever, liberals or Democrats, whatever.
Right.
If you are reinforced in those things, that's the first thing. And then the second thing is, if you're in an environment where you can't question.
That's it.
When you don't question, you lose the muscle of critical thinking, and then you're unable to ask hard questions. Now, if you're in a church where asking the wrong question too many times would cut off your social relationships and wreck your life, you need to leave. And this is the great weakness of male-dominated churches and complementarianism, is that wives who have those experiences and feelings,
it's a double one.
They have nowhere to go because he cannot let them leave. Whereas he should be talking to his wife and saying, okay, I think we need to look around for a different place where we're both feeling good. Instead, he becomes a representative of the man, of the church, instead of the partner.
And and thus the representative of God.
I
mean, that's the power in religious structure is, totally. Well put. And I think that's exactly right. People will ask me, Connie, which what churches are abusive around town. I'm like, oh, I'm not touching that. I'm not touching that, because like I say, there's one church I have in mind that I pick up a lot of pieces from. They do a lot of damage, and I have a client that goes to that church who has grown and had community and been, her life has been genuinely enriched by, frankly, a church I probably wouldn't send somebody to.
Right.
But that is the ambiguity we're dealing with here. How is that intersecting with her life? Another question: how high up in leadership are they? Because to me, the higher up you get, or better yet, the closer to the inner circle of leadership and influence you get,
know what's going on.
Oh, you know what's going on, and the stakes are higher. You're more invested, and that's why a lot of associate pastors are my clients, because they're the one they've been it's like they're the ones that got right up to
and I've been contacted by associate pastors too. That's interesting.
To me, that's just my observation, to say, that part of the reason this client of mine is doing okay is because she's kind of on the outskirts and just taking in the good stuff they have to give. Great. She may not be in danger, and I guess that's the subjective nature of this. I'm not going to say I'm going to rate that church 1 to 10. First of all, I wouldn't want to do that to a human. It's like, what? No.
Yes. You've got to look at the experience of the member. Look at the experience of the member as a daughter in that church, and in the experience as a son. Look at the experience of the wife, the husband. How does the church handle it when somebody has a different idea and questions?
Exactly.
Those are the marks that we get used to, because we think, well, churches are nasty and there's always problems or something, when we should be saying, wait a minute. There's a problem. That's not healthy. What's going on? And then you get an answer like, well, in this church, we trust our elders to, and that's when you need to go, okie doke.
Good to know.
And then you go down and find a healthy church.
Totally. That the willingness and ability to question is huge. So big. I mean, I just posted, oh gosh. I'm going to find it on my phone because it's just so perfect. It's a cartoon, and it's not by David Hayward. Usually I use David Hayward's cartoons because they're so phenomenal. But I reposted a cartoon just yesterday about it had to do with somebody questioning. Oh, come on. Well, it's not coming up. It was, oh gosh, let me see if I can do this. It was this bunch of sheep, and there was a big wolf behind them. And somebody had approached the sheep and said, "Wolf!" And one of the sheep was coming up and just booting them. What was the word he used? Slander. They couldn't say wolf. They couldn't question. They couldn't. I love that cartoon so much. I was really good. And of course, it was funny. I posted it in my group and immediately, bam, 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 bam. Yeah. Oh, totally. It's like, because you get in that bind of saying, I can't voice my own perspective and my own reality without, like you say, losing the social circle. People do not understand. Like, the question so often is, why would people be in that? Don't they get out sooner? Because your life has become everything.
It is costly.
It is. You lose your life, basically. You lose what you understand to be your existence, and, you had a wife and, a couple of kids. You guys had to rebuild. Who are we?
Exactly.
I mean, the identity loss is, and then all your people. All your people. I'm thinking about you guys. So were you in your 30s when you left? Was that it?
36.
Yeah, 36. You built all your adult life there, basically. And losing that social circle is powerful. Right. I mean, I know there are people who see bad things going on in their church. As a church here in Portland, been around a long time, and I'm hearing more and more things about it that are like, oh dear me. But there are people who've been there for decades and decades. And what are they supposed to do? Pastors come and go, and so they go, I'm willing to put up with this horribleness, basically from the leadership, because I don't want to lose this has been my life, my world. And that is, part of me goes, I don't care, run. But another part of me goes, I get that. Yeah. I get it, unfortunately.
Well, and I understand that. This is the great trick of that and the great terrible thing about it. when you concede to stay in a place that's unhealthy and hurtful like that. For some reason, and I don't know, well, I have theological ideas, but the children always end up being hurt. It always trickles down to the vulnerable. Yeah. So when you see things like that and you experience those, you can stay if you want, but you should never tell yourself that it's irrelevant and it doesn't matter to you.
It's a big deal.
No,
and
someone's going to get hurt.
And exactly. And you're going to be tainted. You're going to be, our brains, we know through brain science, we are impacted by who we interact with. And that is where you're in this, if you're in an unhealthy system, you either have to eventually become more like the system or it becomes more and more unbearable, so it's a tough thing. Let's take a couple comments here. JR, it's really about control, isn't it? See, he and I've had a few, he knows.
Yeah.
The book I wrote, let's go ahead and put his name to it. Yeah. Kathy, it's all about power and control. You bet you guys get this. Julianne, hello, boom. Oh, darn it. I wish I knew what she was talking about. Yeah, I'm sure it was something good, right? Something we said, Julianne. Oh, hello there. Hello, I know Romeo. Okay. Karen Obey, so very much to unravel. Yes, a lot to unravel, hon. You bet. Michael, David Hayward is great. Yes, you love him, right? This is so huge. Losing your social circles lets me isolated, feeling alone. Teresa, yes. I know your story, sweetie, and it is painful. It's so disorienting. It's like, these are my people I've invested years, maybe decades with, and so hard. This has done great damage to my youngest child. Yes, reaffirming exactly, what you're saying. It's like, you got your kids and youth picking up the pieces of something you didn't know was coming down the pike. And it's a tough thing. Okay, our time is done. Listen, don't you go away. Don't go away. Listen carefully. Two things. Kim, give a brief overview of what we're going to be seeing here in Portland for those of you who are local on September 21st. Okay, September 21st. It's going to start at 9 in the morning. And we're going to just have a big meeting then. And then we have 3 rooms at the McMenamins Kennedy School where we will have 2 tracks of, you can drink, and 2 tracks of... I may need to. 2 tracks of workshops. And the workshops are going to be on sexual abuse in religious groups. There's going to be one workshop by a dear friend who is a survivor and is used to be called second generation adult, but it's just a born and raised. Okay. And she will be leading a real discussion based kind of workshop. Love it. I will be speaking about the phenomena of Orthodox churches, in other words, with proper doctrine that operate as cults and the disconnect there. Kent Bertner, retired Catholic priest with most of his experiences with the Moonies, he will be talking about recovery from spiritual abuse. And then Margaret Eichler is, her specialty is trauma recovery, and she teaches counseling at Lewis and Clark, and she will be talking about that. And then Ashlyn Hilliard, who is, I believe she's executive assistant at ICSA, is going to fly here from Florida. Thank you, ICSA, for flying her here. Yeah. And she'll be speaking a little bit. Actually, our workshop will be together, Ashlyn and I, about how you look at that. That's kind of what we were talking about before. How certain doctrinal issues are not those things. Right. Okay, you guys, you're still with me. Don't go away. I don't say this often, but you want to take my webinar this coming Sunday at this exact same time. You guys, I don't lose superlatives a lot, but this truly is life-changing material I'm dealing with on the all or nothing mindset. It changes your mood, your mental health, your physical health, your relationships. I want you all there. If for some reason you're struggling with a payment, get in touch with me. Let's make a deal. Okay, we get in touch with me. I trust you guys to pay. It's worth every penny I'm charging. That said, some of you don't have those pennies. And so I really do want you to be a part. So people are signing up. It's really exciting. And I want you there for your sake. I don't need you there, but I'm having so much fun getting this stuff together. Yeah. Super excited. It's just, it's fun. So thank you, Ken. Thank you for being here. Of course. I love it, the fact that you're here. And you'll be hearing more from him because I'm going to bug him here and there, and we're going to talk about other stuff. So take care, you guys. I've checked some final notes. Sherry, thank you for getting the workshop. Karen might have to. Oh, Karen, you'd love the Saturday one. You would love it.
Well,
so
tell them
much.
about the safe meetups too. Once a month we
Oh,
get together.
thank you.
Maybe
Yes.
not timed, but I'll give it to Connie. She can put it on the site.
Will you do that? Make
Yeah.
sure. Email that to me so I make sure it goes on the
Yeah,
site.
sure.
He has local monthly meetups, which I've told him my heart has gone many times. It has planned to go many. It's Friday nights, and I'm usually like, I can't think straight. So anyway, but I really believe in what Ken's doing there. So any of you local, those are great, great meetups. So, all right, you guys, so excited. Teresa, thank you, Ken and Connie. You're so welcome, Teresa.
Yeah.
Take care, all of you, and have a wonderful rest of your day. All right, and those of you watching replay, feel free to chime in on certain parts. Identify what you're talking about, though, so we know what you're referring to. And I'd love to continue. We'd all love to continue to interact. All right.
Thanks.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
And